Welcome to Biz Africa. We are privileged to have with us today Mr. Rajal Vaidya, who is the Consumer Banking Director for Barclays Africa. Welcome to our show, Mr. Vaidya.
Thank you very much, and it's a real pleasure to be here today.
Well, who is, in a nutshell, Rajal Vaidya?
Oh, that's a really nice question to begin with. Well, let me just introduce myself. I work with Barclays, been with Barclays for the past 6 years, in charge of the Barclays Africa retail banking operations in Africa, which spans 11 countries and 12 businesses. So been with Barclays since 2007, and prior to that I worked in Asia, primarily in India, again on the consumer banking side, going back a number of years from 1990. So all in all, quite a number of years spent in consumer banking.
Well, it is clear, Mr. Vaidya, if you allow me to say, that you're quite a seasoned banker, and as such, I believe you've seen the evolution of banking as it is internationally and on the African continent. So what would you say about the evolution of consumer banking and such, and what is the significance of consumer banking for Barclays in Africa?
Well, that's really interesting, because if you think about consumer banking going back to the early 90s, it was all about product, and the most important thing for a bank was to put the right product in front of the customer and to make sure that through the product space we are offering the best deal for the customer. So whether it was a consumer loan, whether it was an auto loan, whether it was a mortgage, or whether it was a current account or a savings account or a credit card, it was all about the product. And as you see the evolution over the past number of years, you'll see that the emphasis is gradually moving away from product, and while product continues to be important, it's the proposition, customer experience that's really important. So that's an important trend that's emerging across the globe. The other thing, of course, is we can't ignore that, is the presence and the importance of the digital agenda and how the digital world is influencing the way that the banks are relating to their customers. So a great emerging trend is the way that the banks now have to reinvent themselves to make sure that they're present in the 21st and the 22nd century in the way that the customers live their lives using the digital world and not just the real world.
As I take stock of what you just told us, Mr. Vaidya, we see that there's some sort of focus now which moves from the product to the people you're serving. And we see that Barclays is having more focus now on the affluent segment. Is that the promised land for the future of banking?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting question, because if you think about it, I mean, there is really no such thing as the promised land. It's really doing what's right for the customer, which is the promised land. And that's something that certainly at Barclays, we are trying our best to achieve, which is to put the customer first and make sure that we are in the business of understanding the customer's need and providing them with the right solution. If we feel that if we can do that, then we will really be relevant to our customers, we'll be a partner in their journey, we will be a trusted financial advisor, and that's really what we want to be. Now when you think about the various segments, now obviously the affluent segment is very important because of the kind of presence that it has, the kind of purchasing power that that segment has. But clearly we have to be different things to different people. So Barclays as a brand is globally well known, very well respected, and therefore when we think about an affluent customer, they are immediately able to relate to Barclays. So a customer from Mauritius who travels to the UK, most likely to be affluent quite often, can see that what they get from Barclays in Mauritius is the same thing that they would get from Barclays in the UK. So for the affluent segment, I think the globality of Barclays and what we can offer as a global institution is very relevant. But at the same time, I think there are other segments which are equally important to us. And if you think about everybody else who maybe doesn't have a need to travel that often and lives on the island, we want to be relevant to them as well. For us, it's not just the affluent segment, but it's really being relevant to all our customers.
And Mr. Vaidya, if you are going to serve various target audiences in various segments of the market, does it not imply that you have to roll out simultaneous strategies at the same time, focusing one on niche markets, focusing on mass markets, and then also improving the customer experience? Barclays differentiate itself with regard to the competition.
Sure. So I think for us what's really important first is making sure that we know which segments we want to play with, who are our customers, and then starting to work with our products and segments and propositions to make sure that we are relevant to them. So the concept that we really work with is that in today's day and age, what's important to the customer is speed, transparency, access, and information. And if we can provide the customer through our products, through our services, and through our propositions, with all of these four, speed, transparency, access, and information, we believe that we can be the trusted partner for them in their life's journeys. So when you think about banking, nobody wakes up and says, I want to do banking today. But they do think about saying, I'd like to buy a house, or they do say, I'd like to buy a car. And for us, what's really important is that when they make that decision to buy a car, when they make that decision to buy a house, is Barclays the first bank that they will come to? And how can we really be a partner through our mortgage propositions, through our personal loan proposition, or through our credit card proposition, to be able to provide them with the experience that they need to fulfill their ambitions?
Could you give us some clarity around the grounds on which the battles will be won or lost when it comes to banking, to consumer banking, and how will Barclays, strive to stay ahead of the competition on those fronts?
I think the world has become increasingly a flat place, in the sense that what's available today in Mauritius is going to be available in the next 5 minutes through the internet everywhere else in the world. So really, connections are being made at a very, very fast pace. So what's really going to determine who wins or loses is who's putting the customer first, who's giving the customer choice, is being completely transparent about that choice, and is making sure that whatever we provide to the customer is fulfilling their need. So I think that's the first concept. The second place, I think, is the whole way that we as banks and financial institutions reinvent ourselves to be relevant in the digital world. So if you think about you and me, and when we wanted to buy a book, let's say a few years back, we thought about going to a bookstore. That changed a few years back when Amazon started saying that you can actually purchase a book online and we'll ship it to you. And more recently, that's changed even further when you can actually download a book instantly. So now it's all about instant gratification. And when you think about banking, has that actually changed at the same rate? And perhaps the answer is no. So the question is then, the banks of the future, the ones who are going to be successful, are the ones who can actually transform themselves from being relevant in the real world to the virtual world. So I think the digital presence is going to be extremely, extremely key.
And jumping on that word, Mr. Vaidya, how is Barclays gearing up technologically or in terms of the resources to adapt to this change? And how do you foresee the future of consumer banking?
So at Barclays, we take this extremely seriously, because and the reason why I talk about this is because we really believe that if we are going to be relevant to our customers, we first have to provide speed. Speed and instant gratification is something that is really, really important. We have to be transparent in the way that we provide our products. We have to provide access to our products and services when the customer wants them and not when we want them. So gone are the days when we could say the bank is open from 9 to 5. We have to be available to the customer 24/7. So tomorrow, for example, is the weekend and you're out with your family and you find a nice house that you would like to buy. You need Barclays to be present on Saturday, or somebody who you can talk to on Saturday to say, can I get a mortgage for this house? So how can we have access to the bank and banking products around the clock? And the final one is information. Because much as you would like us to be your partner, we must provide you with the information which allows you to make sure that your money is working harder for you. So I think the speed, transparent access and information agenda is extremely critical for us in Barclays. How are we making that happen? By making sure that we are investing in technology, that we are investing in systems, but also how do those systems work for the betterment of the customer experience. So it's all for us about making sure that systems and technology are being used to provide the best possible instant customer experience across everything that we do.
And to conclude, Rajal Vaidya, how would you depict Barclays maybe in 10 years' time, factoring in all these elements of change, transformation, technology, etc., and on-demand banking? How would you describe Barclays maybe in 10 years' time?
Well, we would certainly like for us to be the bank of the future today. So we would really like to say that how can we make sure that a customer in the UK and a customer in Mauritius is absolutely getting the same experience. That we could say that somebody here in Mauritius who's got an account with Barclays here and with the UK through their phone can make transactions instantly, can use maybe one credit or one debit card wherever they are in the world, can talk to one person whether it's their account here or the account in the UK. So what we are all about in the future is that the bank of the future is about how the customer wants to interact with the bank, making sure that whatever they want tomorrow we deliver today.
Thank you so much for your interview, Mr. Rajal Vaidya. I think that we have much more clarity about how Barclays is poised to stand as a bank for the future. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much.